بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى الصحابة أجمعين ومن اتبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My dear brothers and sisters, we are happy to welcome you all into this series, inshallah, of the seerah or the history and the stories behind the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So in the past we have discussed the seerah of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and in doing so we learn more about the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, his companions, and what they put forth for us today and what they brought forth for us today. And in doing so, in learning about these great people in our history, we take from them role models. And how do you make somebody a role model unless you love somebody, right? A role model is always somebody you admire, someone you look up to, someone you love. But how would you love someone, admire or look up to them if we don't know their history, if we don't know anything about them? So we will give a series, inshallah, where we will get to know the Sahaba of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam and get to know them better, and inshallah take them as our role models and our examples. So this first set of talks, inshallah, of videos will be regarding one of the Sahaba, which we have discussed in the past in the seerah. And this is just a reminder for me first and for everybody else. So I begin by asking you all that if I have said a mistake, if I have said something wrong, it is from me and I ask you to forgive me. It is from myself and the shaitan. And anything which is correct is from Allah. So my brothers and sisters, today we will begin the series by talking about Abdullah ibn Uthman At-Taymi Al-Qurashi. Abdullah ibn Uthman, also known as Abu Bakr As-Siddiq, Abu Bakr ibn Abi Quhafa, his name, he was born as Abdullah, and he was born 2 years after Am al-Fil, 2 years after the year of the field. So if we go back to the seerah of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we know that he was born at Am al-Fil, in Am al-Fil itself. So the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam was 2 years older than Abu Bakr. And we learn by this that also when the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam became a prophet, he was how old? He was 40. Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, or Abdullah, he was 38. Here, at the age of 38, he accepts Islam. At the age of 38, he accepts Islam, learns the Quran, and calls the people to Islam. And today, speaking of myself first and everybody else afterwards, we reach a certain age and we say, Wallahi, we are too old now. We have surpassed the age of seeking knowledge. We have surpassed the age of trying to memorize Quran. Here Abu Bakr was 38 when he accepted Islam, when the da'wah began, and he accepted Islam, and he became one of the greatest Sahaba. In fact, the greatest Sahabi, because we know that Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, he was the best of mankind after the prophets. And he was named Abu Bakr by the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What does Abu Bakr mean? Abu Bakr, because كان مبكرا للخير. He used to be quick and eager to do good. Mubakkir, he was quick, eager, first, always first to do good. So the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam called him Abu Bakr. Also one of his names is Atiq. And the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to say, "Man kana, whoever wants to see Atiq Allahi min an-nar, let him look at Abu Bakr." Whoever wants to see the one who slaved, the one who Allah slaved from, who Allah freed from the hellfire, meaning who Allah saved from the hellfire, meaning the fire will not touch, let him look at Abu Bakr. So we learn here already the status of Abu Bakr radiallahu anh. And like we said, by learning these, we learn about the Sahaba, about the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And one of the things we should do is, when we learn the seerah, as soon as we finish learning it, or as soon as we finish reading it or listening to it, we should start all over again. Whether it's by the same Sheikh or a different Sheikh which you can trust, which you have your trust in, and then that way you can derive different lessons, inshaAllah. So Abu Bakr R.A, he was the first man to enter Islam. The first grown up, the first man to enter Islam. He was the first to call the people to Islam. In fact, the same week that he entered Islam and he called the people to Islam, 6 of the 10 who were promised Jannah accepted Islam by the hands of Abu Bakr. 6 of those who were promised Jannah was through the hands of Abu Bakr R.A. He is the first Khalifa for the Muslims. He was the first person to gather the Quran. He is the first person to donate his entire wealth for the sake of Allah. He is the first of the 10 who are promised Jannah. He is the first to enter Jannah after the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He was the first to migrate with the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. When I say he was the first, he was the only one. Allah Himself affirms the companionship of Abu Bakr to Rasulullah, and vice versa. When He says, when Allah speaks about His Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, He says, إِذْ قَالَ لِصَاحِبِهِ, when he said to his companion. Meaning when the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam said to his companion. Who's his companion? Who was with him in that cave? No other than Abu Bakr. He was the first to be buried next to the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. His household was the first household to accept Islam. All of them, the entire household, all of them, from his father, his mother, his children, even his servant, all accepted Islam. And he was the first to unite the entire ummah after the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam passed. So we begin to learn that Abu Bakr played a very important role in this religion. He was the first of many things. And he was always quick and eager to do good for the sake of Allah. He had the best of characters. He was loved by everyone. We said his name was Abdullah, and his nicknames was Asadeeq, Atiq, and Abu Bakr. And inshaAllah, we will touch upon Asadeeq in the next week, inshaAllah. In the next halaqah, we will discuss about some of his virtues and things that happened, inshaAllah. We said he was loved by everyone. He did not drink, nor did he worship idols even before Islam. Yani he was pure even before Islam. When he was asked, why don't you drink? Why didn't you drink before Islam? How come? He said because he didn't want to affect his soul, or his honor. He said one day he seen a person that was drunk. And this was before Islam. One day he seen a person who was drunk, and he was eating from the bins, from the rubbish. So when he seen this person, he knew he doesn't want to be like this. Because why? Alcohol clouds the judgment. And wallahi, this is true. I've witnessed it myself. I used to work in a pizza place, and late at night you get the drunk people coming out. And one person came in, ordered a pizza, went outside to eat the pizza, sat inside the bin. Wallahi, he sat inside the bin, fell into the bin and carried on eating their pizza. There's no aib, there is no shame, because their entire judgment has been clouded. And if they were to record themselves acting like this, acting like animals and fools, only the smart ones and the intellect would refrain away from the alcohol. Also about the idols, he didn't worship any idols. When he was young, his father took him to a place and he said, these are your idols, these are your gods, worship them, and left. Abu Bakr looked at them, radiallahu anh, and he said, feed me, quench my thirst, clothe me. And he said to himself, Wallahi, I know you cannot do any of this. And he picked up a stone and he threw it at the statue and broke it. SubhanAllah, it reminds you of who? Ibrahim alayhi salam. When he had the conversation with the idol. I say conversation, it wasn't really a conversation, it was a one-way, like he was talking to a brick wall. And he was doing it to prove a point. And here, Abu Bakr is doing the exact same thing, to prove a point. Years later, they said to him, why don't you worship, this is Allat and Uzza, why don't you worship them? He said, and who are they? They said, these are the daughters of Allah. And he turned around to them and he said, and who is their mother? And they became shocked and silent. SubhanAllah, he knew how to answer them. He knew how to put them in their place. He was the best friend of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The best companion to the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam before Islam and after Islam. He defended the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam when nobody was able to. Ali radiallahu anhu was asked many years later, who was the bravest? And the people who asked Ali this were expecting Ali to say, me, himself. And he said, Wallahi, I've never seen anyone more braver than Abu Bakr. And everybody was shocked. Abu Bakr? We hear these stories about Ali, how brave he was, how strong he was when he was on the battlefield. So they were expecting him to say himself. And they said, Abu Bakr? He said, I remember when the Rasul was in front of the Kaaba. And the people were pulling him here, there, and they were trying to hurt him. They were hurting the Rasul, they were punching him, they were kicking him, they were putting him down. Nobody was able to defend him except for Abu Bakr. He ran into that crowd to defend the Rasul. And when he ran into that crowd, he was hit, he was struck to the point that the people thought he may have died. And inshallah we will discuss this in the next talk, inshallah. But today is just about snippets, an introduction into Abu Bakr, who he was, the life of Abu Bakr, so that we inshallah can carry on. We said he accepted Islam when he was 38. 38 years old, and he was eager to accept Islam and carry on this risala. His iman outweighed the entire ummah. His iman outweighed the entire ummah. The Rasul said, that is because something was in his heart. وَقَرَ فِي قَلْبِهِ شَيْءٍ. There was something, the Rasul didn't say what it was, he just said there was something. The ulama, they said this is iman. The iman was in his heart. And the Rasul defended Abu Bakr to the rest of the Sahaba. He defended Abu Bakr. How? One day Abu Bakr and Umar had an argument between themselves, miscommunication between themselves, where Abu Bakr was eager or too eager, and he said something to Umar, and then when he realized he said something to Umar, he asked for forgiveness from Umar, and Umar was hurt and he refused. So he turned away and walked away. Turned and walked away. Abu Bakr was offended by this action because he wanted Umar to forgive him. So Abu Bakr immediately goes to the Rasul to explain to him what happened, and he said, I was the one who said something to Umar, and then I asked him for forgiveness and he refused and he walked away. Umar radiallahu anh went home. When he reached his house, he realized, maybe I was too harsh, I should have forgiven him. So he goes to the house of Abu Bakr to tell him that he has forgiven him. When he goes to his house, he realizes he's not there. So then he realizes if he's not there, there's no other place for him to be except in the house, except with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he goes to the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Immediately, as soon as he walks in, the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam became angry and stood up. Abu Bakr seeing this, and he dropped to his knees and he says, Ya Rasulullah, it was me who oppressed Umar. And the Rasul ﷺ said, what is wrong with you and my companion? Wallahi, he didn't question me when I came with the Risala. When I came with Islam, he didn't question me. He accepted when all of you rejected. You all had a question about it, he accepted. Leave my companion. And the Sahaba, they said, from that day forth, everybody knew the position of Abu Bakr, and he was never bothered again. My dear brothers and sisters, the time, inshallah, has come to an end. I've already kind of spoken too much. So inshallah, we will continue next week, in which we will discuss more about Abu Bakr, and we will go into more details, inshallah. So please join us next week. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.